Good morning and welcome to Knuckle Sandwich MMA. Wow, what a card. What a card. UFC Vegas number 9. It was Overeem versus Sakai. And what a card it was. I mean, these guys were plagued with COVID-19 issues, with people getting not able to fight because they were uh, viewed as positive on the tests, and last minute replacements. I mean, the list went on and on of everything that could possibly kill this card, but it didn't. It didn't. The UFC did it again. They completely did it again. I mean, these fighters, man, holy smokes. One of the greatest cards, short card, 7 fights, right? They lost what, 4 or 5 fights? They had 7 fights on the card, and they were really, really good fights. I'm just going to go over everything because there's only 7 fights. So there you go. We're going to go over the whole card, okay? And I got to tell you, man, I was yelling at the TV last night. Wow, I was just amazed. Very, very pleased, very excited, great finishes. A couple of issues I had. I'll tell you about those as we get to them, though. So the first up, we have Hunter Azure. He defeated Cole Smith by unanimous decision. And Hunter is this tough dude. He lost to Brian Kelleher previously, and but there was a tough fight, super tough fight. Hunter Azure is he's a super exciting fighter. He is very tough, great wrestler. Holy smokes, can this guy wrestle? Now the guy he fought was a late replacement as well, and this was Cole Smith. Cole Smith surprised me. It was a great surprise because I just thought to myself, yeah, Azure was so much shorter than Smith. Smith was long, and he wanted to wrestle too. He had great defensive techniques, but Azure pressured him and had him on the ground for a lot of minutes. But when he was striking and when he was kicking, he kept Azure at bay, and I think that's where he kind of messed up. He should have just kept doing that, because Azure is so short. I think he's only like 5'6" or something like that. He's pretty short, but he couldn't get inside when Smith was kicking and throwing those long jabs. And Smith was strong. He was much stronger than Azure, in my opinion. But Azure was probably twice as good, or even more so, on the ground. And so he couldn't take his back. Every time he tried to get his hooks in, he was too high up. Smith was too tall for him to just kind of cling on his back and do stuff. So he had a lot of difficulty there. But once he got to the ground, he was able to keep him down, and it was a unanimous decision. Great fight, super technical. Very impressed with Smith. I think he's going to go places in the UFC, as well as Azure. He's going to go places as well. Both of them are really good. It was super exciting grappling match. I really thoroughly enjoyed that fight. I really did. It was a great fight. And then we have Viviana Araujo versus Montana De La Rosa. Now, on my last podcast, I picked De La Rosa, and I messed up. Viviana was much better striker. She came in great shape. Both of them were in great shape. Now, I don't want to take anything from De La Rosa because she was game. She had a lot of heart. She got beat up pretty bad. She was a bloody mess. But her game plan was flawed, in my opinion. She should have done a lot more wrestling, and she barely did anything at all in the wrestling realm. She was striking, and I think even her in between rounds, her corner gave her advice to take it to the ground to wrestle, and she didn't. But the thing that kind of bothered me, and I don't mind confidence, okay? I don't mind it at all, because we're going to talk about another fight where, in this same card, where the confidence was just brimming over the top. But with De La Rosa, she was getting beat up. Her face was a bloody mess, and she was still fronting, and she was still doing this, and and taunting and doing and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you got to fight. You got to win before you do that. You got to at least be winning the fight. to do that. And she wasn't winning the fight. She was losing the fight. Viviana brought it, man. She was ready to rock and roll. She looked really good. Her movement, her lateral movement was really super good. She was light on her feet the whole fight. It was really great. And those leg kicks, holy crap. I mean, she was just nailing De La Rosa with those leg kicks. And De La Rosa, she was planting that lead foot like hard because I guess she wanted to land some bombs. But the problem is that Viviana just kept chopping at that leg, and she jacked it up. It was marked up pretty bad. So, that was I don't want to say it was a good fight because Viviana brought it. It was a bad fight for De La Rosa because she had the wrong game plan, and she didn't want to adjust, or she couldn't adjust. Something was going on, but when she did for a brief time in the second round, and Viviana started to back off. And I thought, okay, now she's getting it. She threw a couple of leg kicks and that kind of stuff, but then she went back to the punching because I think that that pride came in, and she was mean mugging, and she was talking smack and all that kind of stuff. And you got to wait till after the fight, or at least you got to be winning that fight to be doing that stuff. But if you're on the losing end and you're down, you need to that's not going to change your opponents. You're not going to get under your opponent's skin doing that if you're losing, because they're already seeing you lose, and your face is a bloody mess. So I would talk to De La Rosa. I would tell her, you need to utilize that grappling game, that wrestling, because she's really good at that. And I think she would have did well if she had taken her to the ground. But her attempts were half-hearted. They just weren't real attempts, and it wasn't even a feint. A feint is this, but when you go for a double leg and then you give it up like real quick, you're not committed to it. So and I didn't see any real instance of her being able to be struck in that position. She just didn't finish it for some reason. Strange to me. Let's move on. So we have Brian Kelleher versus he defeated Ray Rodriguez by submission with a choke and guillotine. And Ray Rodriguez was like a very, very last minute replacement. But thank goodness he stepped up. That's pretty cool. Dana White, UFC, they love that stuff. They love when they call you and you say yes and you come in, regardless if it's a day's notice or 3 weeks or whatever. They like that when you say yes. So, when he says, don't say no when we call, he means it. But I think, even though the dude got submitted within about 45 seconds, 49 seconds, something like that, he's still going to have a contract with the UFC, and Dana White just respects that kind of stuff. But he obviously didn't do his homework on Kelleher, because he took Kelleher down, and Kelleher is known for chokes and submissions and good wrestler and all that stuff. And I thought to myself when he took him down, because he was looking good for the first few seconds, not bad. I thought when he took him down, okay, this dude must be a wrestler too, but he wasn't, because Kelleher locked up that guillotine and then arched his back, and Rodriguez tried to fight the hands, but it wasn't happening. It was locked in, and he had to tap. But to Rodriguez's credit, him stepping up on a super late notice to be able to fight Kelleher tells me a lot about him and his willingness and his eagerness to be in the UFC and to fight was really cool. And I also think, even though there was no audience, I think it was overwhelming. He kind of looked like a deer in the headlights for a little bit, and anybody stepping in on late notice with a really good fighter and in the UFC, you're going to be overwhelmed probably. But I think it was a good learning lesson for him. I think he'll take a lot from it. I hope he does, and applies it for his next fight. But way to go, Brian Kelleher. Great win. You needed that win, and it was good. And this dude, Kelleher, man, he keeps fighting. He wants to fight. He's like, give me another fight. Give me another fight. All these dudes that just keep requesting more fights, it's pretty cool. And if they're healthy and they don't take too much damage in the previous fight, I'm all for it, man. If they're ready, let them go next week. Let them go 2 weeks later, that's cool. If they're willing to fight, then they're ready to bring it. And Kelleher brought it. He got a a performance of the night bonus for that guillotine. So there you go. There you go. Very, very good. Man, what a fight. Let's see who else we have. Andre Muniz versus Bartosz Fabinski. Fabinski. And I think Fabinski was also a late replacement for Andre. And Andre submitted him with an arm bar. And it was beautiful, man. And I was a little impressed with Zabinski too, because when they were grappling, he was making some necessary changes. He looked pretty good for a minute, but then Muniz, he just positioned himself. He tried a couple of different little submission techniques, and then he rolled over and swiveled into a position for an arm bar, and he grabbed that and locked it in real quick, and it was tight too. You could see his forearm bending, and he tapped out real quick, and that was that. A great submission, very clever, and you could see he was trying 2 or 3 all within seconds of each other. And that's really cool when somebody's looking for that rather than just laying there, or he was looking for submissions, and he found one. Third try was a charm, locked it in, tapped him out, stood up, got the V. So very, very good to Andre Muniz. And then next up we have Michael Pereira versus Zalim Amadeev. And they say, somebody made a comment that Zalim Amadeev was in the vein of Habib Nurmagomedov. And, he grapples you to the ground and then smashes you, and I've seen him fight before, and he is a tough dude, man. He's a tough dude. I think he came in, he was 8-1 or something like that. And so he's no slouch. Plus those Russians are tough dudes, man. But Michael Pereira, so here's the story with this guy, man. He's pretty big for a welterweight. He's pretty good size, great physique, strong, good cardio. He has all the makings. Looks like he looks like a good face for the UFC. But he's lost 2 in a row before this fight, and this was the last fight of his UFC contract. So he had to win this fight, period. There was no bones about it. He had to win, because last fight of the contract, 2-fight losing skid, and then here's this dude. Now, he is one of the most unorthodox, crazy fighters, probably the most in UFC right now. He was doing all kinds of stuff. He did a rolling thunder, which is kind of a cartwheel, trying to bring a heel down on somebody's head. He missed. He was doing, flying knees, all kinds of different things, all kinds of different techniques, jumping off the fence for Superman punches, but the thing is that everything, he missed a couple of the big moves and stuff like that, but everything else, he was tagging Amadeev. I mean, just tagging him. He was just, I think he broke his orbital bone on the left side of Amadeev's face. He hit him with some solid shots, and those jabs were crazy. That front snap kick, I mean, it was hitting him right here, man. And you could see he was all red, and you could see how he started to shrink back, because he was pushing the first round and a half, maybe. He was moving forward, but he was getting tagged up, and he was not landing anything. He landed a couple of leg kicks, landed a couple of shots, overhand rights and stuff like that. But it was Pereira's night, and he was doing all the fancy stuff. He was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. He put his hands behind his back, Conor McGregor style, he was doing that stuff. Sticking his chin out. Come on, hit me. Go ahead and hit me. And then at one point during the fight, he licked both of his hands, and he said, "I'm going to smack you, man." Because if you remember, at the face-off, Amadeev smacked him during the face-off. And he said, "I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back." So he did that, and he when he said, "Come on in, I got this hand for you," and he smacked him so hard on the side of his face. I mean, he completely obliterated the Stockton smack. Nate Diaz is probably just, chewing on his fingernails just because he stole his thunder. He stole his move, but this hand was like this, and he just cracked him on the side of his face several times, both sides. He just like bang, bang, bang. I mean, it was just amazing. I was yelling through that fight. I was excited. My wife was watching it with me, and she got into it. She's like, "Why is he doing that? What's he doing?" I said, "Watch him. He's going to do some weird stuff." And but he won the fight. Oh, and then at the very last second of the fight of the third round, he had bloodied up Amadeoff really well, really good. And then he jumped on his back and then put on a rear naked choke. And it, there's a little controversy there that, he tapped or he didn't tap, or he was trying to fight the hands. Needless to say, it's a moot point because he would have choked him out anyway, even if the ref hadn't stopped him, because that thing was deep. It was under his chin and he had it cinched. So whether the guy was going to fight the hands or tapping doesn't matter, because he would have beat him up anyway. And I think he saved him from a little bit of a additional beatdown, because his face was a bloody pulp, man. He just got wrecked. So Pereira, I'm sure he's going to sign a new contract with the UFC and have another multiple fight contract with them. But he looked really good. It was crazy. He's exciting to watch, man. If you haven't seen him, go and watch his fights. Michael Pereira. And you will absolutely love this guy, man. He's hilarious, too. Next fight up, we have Owen St. Preux versus Alonzo Manifield. And Alonzo, that man, if there's a dude that's got a perfect physique, okay, this guy has it. He is a very muscled, no body fat. Symmetry is like right on target. He looks tough. He is tough. And he came in against Owen St. Preux. Now, Owens has a lot more experience than Alonzo, than Manifield, but Manifield's got power. He's got power. Well, Owens St. Preux has power too, and he's long. And he was doing these front kicks, man, these snap kicks through the whole fight to Manifield, and you could tell they were hurting him. He had a good poker face, but they were hurting him, and he ended up not throwing any strikes. I mean, there was times when he had 6 strikes in a round. He wasn't doing anything but trying to cover up, and he offered a couple of barrages, clipped Owens a couple of times, but Owens he figured him out really fast, and then he just started moving. And when he didn't get sloppy, because Owens got a little cocky too, and he got in there and he got clipped a couple of times. But then once he stepped back and said, "Okay, I got to just work this dude," and then in the third round, I believe, Manifield came in for another barrage, and he had overextended his right, and that chin was right there, just staring at Owens in the face, and Owens dropped him, man. He plowed this, I think it was a left hook. He caught him right on the chin, and he dropped face first onto the mat. I mean, it was stone cold knocked out. And he didn't even have to do, Owens, St. Preux didn't have to do any follow-up. It was kind of almost like a walk-away knockout. But he dropped Manifield, and he dropped him hard, right on his face. And the ref stepped in and called the fight, and that was that. So Owens, the old dog, he's nobody's gatekeeper. He's no stepping stone, that's for sure. He's still got what it takes. And I appreciated his post-fight interview too. He's a very humble guy. Wasn't calling anybody out, but he says, I work hard, and I know how to fight, and I know how to bring it. So it was a great fight. So hats off to Owen St. Preux, and that was an exciting fight. And I think they got performance of the night as well. Because there was a lot of KOs and TKOs and submissions. It was a great card. Only 7 fights, and they were great fights. Holy smokes. Okay, now we go to the main one. Okay, this was Overeem versus Sakai. And we got another older veteran versus a newcomer who's a tough tough dude, man. And these are big men. I think they weighed in at 260 pounds. So that's a lot of weight. That's a lot of power. You know, and that's a lot of energy on the cardio. Now, my prediction was Overeem. I picked Overeem, and I picked St. Preux too. So most of the guys that I picked won. The only one that the one that I didn't pick correctly was De La Rosa. I picked her to win, and but the other ones I picked, and I got them all right. So back to Overeem and Sakai. I did pick Overeem because I said if they go into the later rounds, Overeem's going to beat him because I don't know how good his Sakai's cardio is, and Overeem has been in a ton of 5-round fights, so he's got the knowledge to prepare himself for that and to get his cardio where it needs to be. And he's a big boy too, but he's still got good cardio. He really does. And you know, Sakai, he was looking pretty good. He had a little bit of body fat on him, but he was looking pretty good. He's going to be a future champ, I believe. But man, what a fight! This one was an amazing fight. It was a brutal fight. They were dropping some heavy bombs on each other, and Sakai, you know, Overeem. Sakai started pulling away from Overeem in you know, in the beginning of the third round. The first round, it was kind of even. Second round was Sakai. Third round was Sakai. You know, he started to pull away because he was doing these little flurries, and Overeem went back up against the fence and do this. And Sakai is like throwing hooks and uppercuts and all this stuff, and then they get in the clinch. But Overeem, I think, was hurting him with those knees because he's just a master. I mean, he was a K1 you know, kickboxing champ, and they use knees all the time, and he knows how to use them. And they were both kneeing each other in the midsection, causing some serious damage. But Overeem got the best of him in the knees. But Sakai was, you know, he was punching him in the face, got some good shots there. I think Overeem was letting him do that because he was blocking a lot of them. I think he was letting him do that to tire him out. And I think that was part of the game plan, which is, I don't know if that's a smart game plan. I guess if you can block really well, it's a smart game plan to let the guy gas out. But if he came through with a shot, you know, Overeem's been knocked out a couple of times. So, you know, his chin's not as strong as it used to be. I think that he could have got knocked out, but he stuck to the game plan, and it worked because Sakai started getting tired. I mean, in the fourth round, when he came out, he was tired. His hands were lower, you know, and he was still trying. But even when he was doing his flurries, he was just doing this. There was no sting behind those punches. He was just trying to move forward and move Overeem back to the fence. But there was nothing on those punches that was threatening to Overeem at all. And Overeem just started to make a comeback and started working him, and then he took him down, which I was shocked that he took so long to take him down. But when Overeem took Sakai down, Sakai had zero answer. He had no answer to that ground game. And that's when the ground and pound started, and it became a nightmare in the fourth round, man, for Sakai. Like, he was getting, you know, Sakai had cut up Overeem. He cut him on top of his head with a slicing elbow in the clinch. And then he cut him in the eye, and then Sakai had a cut on his eye. But then when Overeem took it to the ground, started the ground and pound, those hammer fists, man, I mean, they were just like solid. They'd hit Sakai's face, and his head would hit the mat, and holy smokes, it was brutal. Anyway, he was getting pummeled on the ground, and he just had no answer, and he was getting whooped. And the bell rang, and I was like, at that point, I was shouting at the TV, "Stop the fight," because this dude is getting jacked. You know, he was taking a lot of damage, man. And I like good fights, and I like them bloody. But when a guy is had it, you know, I'm one of the first dudes to say stop the fight, and I was yelling, "Stop the fight, man!" I thought at one point he dropped his hammer fist so hard, and with the way the camera angle was, it looked like he caved in his face. I kid you not, it looked like it was concave, man. And I was like, "Stop the fight!" And then he went back to his corner, and you could tell he plopped down in his stool, and his face in the fence. Sakai was, and I thought, man, these coaches need to just throw in the towel at this point. They need to throw in the towel. This dude was just like he was out of it. You know, they were wiping the blood off his face, and here's where the controversy, in my opinion, comes in. And this is just from my eyes, okay? The controversy is this. Sakai, or any fighter for that matter, can't say I quit, because if they do, that stigma will stick with them probably for the rest of their career. Okay, even if they're just injured, like beyond, like Sakai was last night, he shouldn't have gone out to that 5th round. No way. No way should he have gone out. Now, here's the other thing. The coaches, okay, you can say, well, the coaches should have thrown in the towel. It's not that easy, because they see it as could affect their future, their fighter's future as well. But also, as a coach, you're constantly pushing your athlete in the gym, you know, and throughout camp, you're pushing them and not letting them quit. And so your mentality is that. So you got this strange dynamic that, you know, what do you do? And if the coaches said throw in the towel, you know, because if they would have asked Sakai, the camera's right there in his face, right? If they would ask Sakai, do you feel like going out? If he would have said, no, I can't continue, okay, without a, you know, then he quit basically. And if they just say, they throw in the towel and not ask him, you know, they just say, no, we're done, throw it in, you know, that stigma is there too. And then here's the third part to this whole trilogy of issues, and that is sending a fighter back out that has obviously been beat. He's not coming back, okay? And that's the other thing, is the fighter's health. So you have all of these dynamics that you have to think about, but you have to think about them like within 30 seconds, you know, a minute. You have to think about all these things and what's the right move. And that's a tough thing. You know, that's a tough thing for anybody. So for an armchair quarterback like myself to say they should have did this, they should have did that, that means nothing. I mean, when you're in the thick of that thing, you know, you're thinking of so many things, right? You're thinking of so many things. You got the coach's perspective of pushing. You got the fighter of, I can't quit. I can't verbalize I quit, because that's going to haunt me forever. And we saw somebody that the UFC already cut because they quit and didn't want to answer the bell, and they cut him. And so you got all these things happening. But then when he came out, when the 5th bell rang and they came out, his hands were down, and you could tell he was just done. And Overeem, he attacked him quick, started the wrestling, because he took him down with ease. And he took him down, and you could just see. And right away, Sakai turtled up, and again, Overeem, he's so good, that ground and pound, he hit him, I think, with 2 solid strikes, and getting ready for a 3rd solid strike when the ref stepped in and called it. And you know, but man, those were 2 strikes that he didn't need to take. I don't know what toll that will take on him mentally, physically, you know, health wise, all of that stuff. I don't know what it'll take on him, but it was a brutal finish. Great for Overeem, because he went out and did his job. And he said, I'm vying for the heavyweight title contention again. He thinks, in his post-fight interview, he said, I need one more fight to get me into the title picture, decisive fight, and which is probably true. But there you go, guys. It was a spectacular night of fighting. 7 fights on the card. Everybody's thinking, oh boy, this card is done. And all the naysayers, man, they're like, this is a shit card. This is that. This is this. I'm telling you, there's so many sleepers. It's just incredible. And everybody wants to perform. They know that the world is watching them now, even more so because of the pandemic. There's more eyeballs on them. They know that. And they're going out there to perform. So don't sleep on any of these cards, you guys, because they're going to be great cards, man. Woohoo! Anyway, I'm super excited. That's my report for UFC Vegas 9, Overeem versus Sakai. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please share my videos. I'm just a rookie trying to, you know, put out my my thoughts on fights, and your help would be greatly appreciated. All right, you guys, I'm out of here. You have a wonderful Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you at the next fight. Keep punching. Keep on punching.